Nebraska Cornhuskers head basketball coach Fred Hoiberg joins Marching to Madness after he led his program to the championship in the initial college basketball classic, where the Cornhuskers knocked off UCF 77-66 for the championship. Coach, it's a pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, sure. Rallying to win, the CBC was a solid way to end the 24-25 season, and you put up 21 wins.
Yeah, it was a first class run event. I'm really glad that we that the team stayed together and the way we approached the postseason, being in its inaugural year with the Crown Tournament, is I brought our leadership group together and to a man, they all said we're going to do this and not only do it, but we got both feet in and our team stayed intact. I think we were one of the only teams that didn't lose anybody to the portal before the tournament started. I think it was us and Boise were the two teams that stayed intact. And, I think that really speaks to the leadership of this group. And I was really proud of our seniors in Brice Williams, Juwan, who did some really good things in a Husker uniform the last couple of years, led us to back-to-back 20-win seasons for the first time since the late 90s, and really capped off the season on a high in cutting down the nets and winning a championship. And we were fortunate this year. We did the same thing in our multi-team event, which we played in Hawaii in the Diamond Head Classic, and to win the championship in that event as well. And just how good of a feeling that is for your guys. And I think there was three teams, maybe four teams that ended the season with a win, and hopefully that gives us momentum going into the off season and strive for greater things next year.
What was the idea and how you prepared as you ran the gauntlet there to win 4 games in a row in such a short period of time against four non-Big Ten teams?
Yeah, it was very unique. First of all, that we didn't start playing until the essentially we lined up with the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. So we had a lot of time, and we have got with our support staff, got with our strength coach, got with our sports scientist, got with our athletic trainer, and just mapped out how we wanted to handle the guys. And really, that first week, it was small groups. It was a lot of individual skill work, and then we got into some 5-on-5 that following week and really had about a week of preparation going into that first game against Arizona State. And then 10 days in Las Vegas, which is a long time, Ken, in Las Vegas. So we really had to manage the time well and kept them busy. And the other part about it is the transfer portal was open when we were playing in that tournament. So it was a very busy time, especially for the coaching staff. We would have a film session in the morning. We would have either a walkthrough in the ballroom or a practice at a local high school gym. And then basically it was calls and Zooms the rest of the day, trying to get a roster filled after the season where we lost six very important players from this year's team. And we actually signed four players when we were down there, to fill some of the holes that we lost. So it was a really productive week, not only, for winning the tournament, but also adding some key players for next year's roster.
Now, you played in the NBA for 10 years and you shot a magnificent 39.6% from three throughout your career in those 10 years. How did your overall level of play combined with the NBA experience help formalize the philosophies you have developed as a coach?
Well, I was really lucky, very fortunate to play for some Hall of Fame coaches and some Hall of Fame players. And my first year in the league, it would have been 1995, where I got drafted late in the second round. I was very fortunate. It was the year of the expansion draft, where the Vancouver Grizzlies and the Toronto Raptors came into existence. And basically, what that did, it opened 30 jobs. And the expansion draft went on, and Byron Scott, who was a great player for the Pacers, obviously Showtime Lakers, and then the Pacers, he was picked up by Vancouver in the expansion draft, and that left one spot on the team. And I was very fortunate to get that spot and then playing behind guys like Reggie Miller and Mark Jackson, Antonio Dale Davis, Rick Smits, Chris Mullen was on some of those early teams, and to play for Larry Brown and Larry Bird with those Indiana teams, and then to go on to play for Tim Floyd and Bill Cartwright, and then Flip Saunders and Kevin McHale. And I took something from all those guys. And then also going back to even back to my high school coach, Wayne Clinton, where we won a state championship, excuse me, back in 91. Those are very formative years. And if you have the right guy in charge, it's really where you learn a lot of the fundamentals of the game. And then Johnny Orr, who I played for
Oh,
at Iowa State as well, and then Tim Floyd my senior year. So I tried to take bits and pieces from all those guys, and then really, make the philosophy that we played with and the core values and the standards that we had with our program, starting at Iowa State, where we had five of the most successful years in the history of the program, and then going on to coach in the NBA with the Bulls for almost 4 seasons, and then year six now here at Nebraska. So the biggest thing that we try to do is play fast. Analytics are a big part of what we do. And, when I look over the course of our career, when you look at our shot distribution chart, for example, it's been pretty impressive, with what we tried to do and recruit the right guys that fit the system that we play. And the other thing is, the different styles just based on the talent and the skill set of the players that we had. And, I'll go back to my second year at Iowa State. We took over a pretty big rebuild and then built it around four transfers, led by Royce White, who is one of the only players in history to lead a team, a Power Five team in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. And we put the ball in his hands at 6'8", 265, and put shooting all around him. And that really kind of started the five-out basketball that you see all over the world right now. And then we built it with George Niang, and then I've had a couple players here at Nebraska, Derek Walker, Rink Mast, who have really initiated our offense in the five-out spread, system that we play. So, again, it goes back to all the great coaches that I played for, and also the great players that I was very fortunate to learn under.
as you evaluate the 3-point game as it is now, what are ways you implemented in both the half court sets and, of course, in transition in the full court?
Well, we had one of the best. We did have the best shooting team in the Big Ten last year. We made the most threes per game. That was 2 years ago when we had Keisei Tominaga, Rink Mast, who again was we had shooting all over the floor. Last year we did not shoot the ball as well, and that was one of the big things with when we were putting this roster together is try to get floor spacing, get it all over the floor. Not only does that open up, shots on the perimeter, but it also opens up the lane, especially when you have a big in the trail spot. If he can make shots, that's a game changer. And some of our best teams have been when we've had a big in the trail spot that can shoot, pass, and dribble. And, that opens up the shots where you want them. It gives you threes, and it also gets you plays at the rim and at the basket. So, 2 years ago when we led the Big Ten in three-pointers, we also were second in the league in paint points. So, it's all based on spacing. And, that's one thing, obviously, of all of us, we're trying to do the best we can in spacing the floor to create those opportunities. And, the best I ever played for, as far as the spacing plan, was Kevin McHale. He was unbelievable at teaching it. It was very simple, the way that he taught the game. And I try to use a lot of those same concepts that Kevin taught us, not only when I played for Kevin with the Timberwolves, but also worked for him. I had open heart surgery that essentially ended my playing career. And then I was fortunate to move into a front office spot and learn from Kevin on a daily basis and just sit around in his office and talk basketball for hours every day. And that was as important as anything as I put my coaching philosophy together.
You had a wonderful guard in Brice Williams, solid catalyst for the Cornhuskers as he led your team in scoring with 20.4 points per game. His presence on the floor allowed him to carry Nebraska to many of the wins.
Yeah, he had a great career, and when you look at the 2 years that he played in a Husker uniform, it'll go down as some of the best teams as far as, especially when you put the 2 years together with a winning percentage. And the thing that I was really proud of Brice is how his game evolved. We had a situation last year where he was really forced into the point guard role, and that really grew his game. To see him initiate our offense and bring the ball down the floor and play a lot more in pick and roll than he ever had at any time in his career, and really became a three-level scorer. He can get to the basket. He's athletic where he can finish. He's got a really good pull-up mid-range game. And when you see drop coverage, you have to have somebody to be able to make those shots, when teams stay home on the perimeter. And then a 40% three-point shooter, a guy that led the Big Ten in scoring and was a first-team All Big Ten selection. So just really proud of Brice. And again, I'm so happy for how the season ended, getting those 4 wins in Las Vegas, especially for guys like Brice, Juwan, that have been in the program that really helped flip the culture of our basketball team.
Now, Brice, Juwan, two top scorers, and doing some statistics, and I failed math in 3 different states, but I did figure out they shot 40% of your field goal attempts per game.
Yeah, and I look at a guy like Juwan in his growth. Very fortunate to get him from Alabama, where he played on a SEC championship team, played in the Sweet 16 for Nate Oates, and you get a guy that is seasoned when he comes here, that was coached at a very high level. And Juwan, when he came in here, the biggest thing he needed to work on was his shot. And he was a 20% three-point shooter in 2 years at Alabama. And when I look at Juwan, he always did the little things for us. Whether it was guarding the best player on the other team, whether it was on the perimeter or inside, he always took that challenge. Rebounded the ball at a high clip. But the thing that I was most pleased with Juwan, and this goes to his work ethic, is he shot 124 threes this year and shot 34%. So his percentage went up 14 percentage points, over the last, when you look at where he was in his second year at Alabama. And again, a guy that put himself in a really good position for his career. And when I look at it, you want to go in and make an impact on your program and leave the place better than where it was when you got there. And when I look at Brice and Juwan especially, and even Juwan was here for 3 years. He had a shoulder injury when we were playing against Illinois in January that year, and Emmanuel Bandamel, who was unbelievable for us, great culture guy. Those two guys both went down. You lose two starters in a season where we were playing really good basketball and on track to make the NCAA tournament. So if those injuries don't occur, you're looking at Juwan as one of the all-time, best as far as winning percentage goes, if he would have stayed healthy in that first year that he was here. But again, just great kids, and certainly want to see everybody succeed, and not just those guys. The other seniors that we had, that were a big part of our program, and guys that we're going to have return to our team next year. But it was all about that year, 3 years ago, when we really flipped the culture, and Juwan was a big part of that.
Connor Esigian is one of those guys who will return. Third leading scorer returns for his senior season. Listening to one of his audio clips, he seems like a very analytical player who critiques his own game to improve every area across the boards.
Yeah, he had a great year, and when I look back at Connor, his freshman year at Wisconsin, he made the all freshman team and set an all-time record for three-pointers made by a freshman. And then the next year, he was in and out of the rotation, and played single-digit minutes on a really good basketball team. Another guy that was coached at a very high level by Greg Gard. And when he came in this year, his big thing was getting him back, getting that confidence back to where he was his freshman year. And he made the third most threes in the Big Ten, made over 70 threes this last season, and finished the season on a very high note. And again, he's been great. He's going to play for the Armenian national team this summer, playing a couple friendly games for them, and that will help him coming in for his senior year, where I expect him to have a huge leadership role. But yeah, I'm proud of Connor for how he got back and got his swagger back, and expecting a big senior year out of him.
As you work the transfer portal and the NIL, what is your philosophy in how to take advantage of those fit your program?
Yeah, a big part of it is staying old, and we lose a lot of again, very big contributors, Brice, Juwan, but a lot of the other seniors that left our program as well, that had good years for us, and we had to replace that. We need to replace that with experience, which we have done. We've gotten a couple in the portal that we feel really good about coming in here that will have 1 year to play, either their fourth or fifth year. And another huge addition for us is getting Rink Mast back. He had a knee procedure last offseason, and that kept him out for the entire season. It was a 12-month recovery. So to get him back, he was such a huge part. He led our team in assists at 6'10", could really shoot the ball, hit 6 threes in a win against Ohio State. So getting him back on the floor is going to be very important. But I really like the additions that we've made, not only with the age and experience, but also the skill level and the shooting that we've added to this team.
Last thing, Coach, your popularity as a player at Iowa State is well defined. When you received votes for the 1993 mayoral election in Ames, Iowa, I do a little research. So tell me a little bit about that, and then how that kind of, was kind of a platform for you going forward.
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, one of the players, so when I was making my decision I played at Ames High School, where Iowa State is located in Ames, Iowa, and I took 3 visits. I went to Stanford. My dad was a professor at Iowa State, and he really wanted me to go to Stanford. He said, "Listen, you're probably not going to play in the NBA, so you need to go to Stanford and get your degree."
Hmm.
So, and I loved it out there. Mike Montgomery was coach. He had it rolling. Had a great visit there. Went to Arizona where Lute Olson was the coach. They were coming off, really good years, and he did a lot of great things with guards. But the thing for me, staying home was the right move for me. And, the support that I received growing up there for my whole life, wanted to stay. I was actually born in Lincoln, Nebraska. And when I was 2, my parents both went to the University of Nebraska. My grandfather was the head coach at Nebraska for 9 seasons. So then I went to Ames when I was 2. My dad got a job at the university. So that's what I knew. I was a huge Nebraska football fan and Iowa State basketball fan. And one of the players, a guy named Doug Collins, who was a great player for Iowa State, he actually kind of started calling me the mayor and, went through it. And then I was uh, Dick Vitale's PTPer of the week. I think I had 41 points against Colorado. And he called me the mayor on Sports Center, and that's kind of where it took off. And then, got a couple write-in votes, and still I think get a few, maybe not anymore, but when I was coaching there and that type of thing, I'd still get a couple votes every year. So I'll say this, Ken, it could be a lot worse. You can get a lot worse nicknames than the mayor. But yeah, it all went back to a guy named Doug Collins, who was a really good player at Iowa State.
Coach Fred Hoiberg, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, he used to shoot the ball with a fervor. I only told people I did that, Coach. I didn't actually do it.
Yeah, it's this. Listen, I was very lucky over the course of my career, and Ken, don't sell yourself short, man. I know you can knock down the shots.
There you go. Thank you. I need you as a motivator. Hey, thanks a lot for your time talking Nebraska basketball, and wish you the best. And I hope we can do this again at some point.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on, Ken. Thanks so much, and have a great summer.